What unfolds when a familiar daytime television figure finally reaches an emotional limit on live TV became one of the most talked about moments in recent broadcast memory. Viewers witnessed a scene that no one in the studio had anticipated, one that transformed an ordinary segment into a moment of raw confrontation. Tension had been quietly building off camera. Nothing prepared the audience for what occurred when Valerie Bertinelli joined the panel on The View. What was meant to be a warm conversation about food, healing, and family unexpectedly erupted into a clash that left the hosts rattled and producers scrambling. The day began routinely at the show's New York studio. Staff members moved efficiently through rehearsed motions, expecting a pleasant, uplifting interview. Valerie had been invited to discuss her latest cookbook and reflect on personal transitions she had experienced recently. Producers deliberately chose her appearance to lighten the tone after several intense political discussions earlier in the week. Instead of an easygoing exchange, the atmosphere slowly transformed into something volatile, as though unseen pressure had been waiting for the right spark. Behind the scenes, Joy Behar had reportedly been under strain. Insiders later suggested she felt increasingly dismissed, believing her viewpoints were being sidelined by both production decisions and conversations at the table. Comments about feeling overlooked had circulated quietly, particularly regarding guest selections and segment direction. Those unresolved frustrations lingered as the show went live, unnoticed by the audience at home. At first, everything appeared calm. Whoopi Goldberg opened the segment with her trademark warmth, welcoming Valerie with sincere enthusiasm. The panel exchanged friendly greetings, and Valerie seemed comfortable, even cheerful. She spoke openly about reconnecting with cooking during a challenging period, describing it as a source of comfort and stability when other parts of life felt uncertain. Her words resonated with the audience, who listened attentively as she spoke about nourishment extending beyond food to emotional well-being. The conversation flowed smoothly until Joy cut in, her tone noticeably sharper than before. Her comment reframed Valerie's reflections as an expression of privilege, suggesting that speaking about cooking as a form of healing ignored the reality faced by families struggling to afford basic necessities. The shift in energy was immediate. Valerie looked taken aback but remained composed, calmly explaining that she had never hidden her own hardships, and that cooking had helped her through genuinely difficult moments. She clarified that her story was personal, not dismissive of others' struggles. Joy leaned forward, her words growing more pointed. She contrasted Valerie's celebrity status with the financial anxiety many viewers face daily, accusing the conversation of sounding disconnected from reality. The tension thickened as she criticized the promotion of another cookbook, framing it as tone-deaf given economic hardships. The studio grew quiet, the audience sensing the conversation slipping out of control. Whoopi attempted to steer things back toward a calmer exchange, but Joy pressed on. She questioned the pattern of public figures reinventing themselves through food after personal setbacks, suggesting it followed a rehearsed narrative rather than genuine self-discovery. Valerie's face flushed slightly, yet she spoke with restraint, expressing discomfort with the personal nature of the remarks. She emphasized that she never claimed expertise or universality, only that sharing her experience might offer comfort to someone navigating similar pain. Joy responded with visible skepticism, dismissing the sentiment as performative and accusing Valerie of prioritizing profit over authenticity. The bluntness of the accusation drew uneasy glances from the rest of the panel. The mood shifted from debate to discomfort, as if an invisible line had been crossed. Sarah Haynes tried to intervene, gently reframing Valerie's message as something many people could relate to, noting that cooking often provides solace during stressful times. Her attempt at balance only redirected Joy's frustration. Joy snapped back, questioning Sarah's perspective and implying that such empathy towards celebrity narratives was naive. She declared she was done softening her opinions to maintain on-air comfort. Silence settled over the studio. The audience, once engaged, now sat motionless, aware they were witnessing something unscripted and deeply personal. Valerie inhaled slowly, steadying herself as she prepared to speak again, her expression reflecting a mix of resolve and hurt while the tension continued to hang heavily in the air. Joy, I truly don't understand what I've done to provoke this level of hostility, but this feels deeply personal. If there's an issue you have with me as an individual, it would be far more appropriate to address it privately instead of turning me into a target on live television. That statement seemed to ignite something in Joy. She slammed her palm hard against the table, the sharp sound echoing through the studio and startling everyone present. Personal. You want to talk about personal? What's personal is sitting here watching this show morph into a celebrity group therapy hour where we're expected to smile and applaud every washed-up actor who decides to publish a cookbook. What's personal is being told I should soften my tone for guests who are obviously here to sell products and polish their image. At that point, Whoopi Goldberg stepped in, clearly fed up, attempting to regain control of the moment. Joy, let's pause for a second. We need to remember we have a guest at the table." But Joy was far past calming down. She pushed her chair back and stood, her face flushed with anger, pointing directly at Valerie Bertinelli. "Don't tell me to pause, Whoopi. I've been pausing for years while this show slowly lost its backbone and turned into a nonstop celebrity admiration parade. I'm finished with pausing. I'm finished pretending that every C-list celebrity who wanders onto this stage automatically deserves respect just because they wrote a book about rediscovering themselves." Valerie stood up as well, her patience clearly gone. "Enough? I don't know what your issue is, but I will not sit here and allow you to speak to me this way. I came here as a guest, and you're acting as if I personally wronged you." Joy let out a cold, bitter laugh. "Wronged me, please. You couldn't wrong me even if you tried. You're not significant enough for that. You're just another aging actress clinging to relevance by releasing cookbooks and oversharing your emotions. It's embarrassing. And what's even more embarrassing is that we're expected to call it inspiring." The insult lingered in the air, heavy and poisonous. Valerie's eyes welled with tears, but she didn't retreat. "You know what's actually embarrassing, Joy? A woman your age bullying someone on live television because you're clearly unhappy with your own life. I genuinely feel sorry for you." The words struck Joy like a slap. Her face shifted from red to an alarming shade of purple, and for a brief moment, she was completely silent. The studio fell into an unnatural hush as everyone waited to see what would happen next. When Joy finally spoke, her voice was low, tight, and simmering with barely restrained rage. "Miserable with my life," she repeated slowly, staring straight at Valerie. "You think I'm miserable? Let me explain what miserable really looks like. Miserable is being a has-been actress who peaked decades ago and now has to crank out cookbooks just to stay afloat. Miserable is reinventing yourself every few years because no one remembers why they cared about you in the first place." Valerie shook her head, stunned. "This is unbelievable. In over 20 years of interviews, I have never been treated like this. What is wrong with you?" Joy shot back instantly, her voice rising again, any trace of professionalism gone. "What's wrong with me? What's wrong is that I've been working in television longer than you've been relevant, and I'm forced to sit here listening to your dramatic tale about finding yourself through cooking as if it's some groundbreaking revelation. What's wrong is that this show used to have standards." Whoopi Goldberg stood up from her chair, visibly trying to stop the situation from escalating further. "Joy, that's it. We're going to commercial right now." But Joy spun around, redirecting her fury toward her longtime co-host. "Don't you dare tell me that's it, Whoopi. You've allowed this show to become a joke for years, inviting nobodies onto this set and expecting us to treat them like they matter. I'm done playing along." The rest of the panel sat frozen. Sarah Haynes looked close to tears, while the newer co-hosts appeared terrified to speak. The audience remained completely silent, fully aware they were witnessing something that was never meant to happen on daytime television. Behind the cameras, producers were reportedly panicking, unsure how to intervene as the broadcast continued uninterrupted. Valerie, still standing beside her chair, turned to Whoopi with a steady voice. "I think I should leave. This clearly isn't about me anymore, and I don't want to be involved in whatever this has turned into." She began collecting her belongings, but Joy wasn't done. "Oh, you're leaving now? How predictable. Can't handle a bit of honesty. This is exactly the problem I'm talking about. These celebrity guests walk onto this set expecting to be pampered and applauded, and the second someone challenges their story or refuses to play along, they suddenly want to walk out." Valerie stopped mid-step and turned back toward Joy Behar, her own frustration finally boiling over. "An honest conversation? That's what you're calling this? From the moment I sat down, you've done nothing but insult me personally. You haven't asked a single sincere question about my book or my life. All you've done is lash out with cruelty for reasons I honestly can't comprehend." "Cruel?" Joy let out a sharp, mocking laugh. "You don't even know what cruel looks like yet. You want to hear what's truly cruel? It's watching genuinely talented people get shoved aside so washed-up names can buy their way back into the spotlight with a cookbook contract. It's being expected to care about your so-called journey of self-discovery when the world is dealing with real problems that actually matter." Sunny Hostin finally spoke up, trying to calm the situation. "Joy, we all need to pause for a moment. This isn't helping anyone." But Joy immediately redirected her anger. "Helping? You want to talk about helping, Sunny? What exactly is helpful about giving airtime to people who have nothing meaningful to say? What's helpful about turning this show into a stage for celebrity emotional therapy?" Her voice grew louder and more unsteady with every sentence. Valerie had reached her limit. She turned toward the camera and addressed the viewers directly, her voice steady but heavy with emotion. "I want to apologize to everyone watching this right now. I came here hoping to share something positive, and instead you're seeing something deeply unpleasant. This isn't who I am, and I truly hope it isn't what this show stands for either. That direct appeal only fueled Joy further. "Don't you dare apologize on my behalf," she shouted. "And don't you dare try to paint yourself as the victim. You're just another celebrity who can't handle being challenged when someone refuses to worship you." At that point, Whoopi Goldberg physically positioned herself between Joy and Valerie, clearly trying to prevent things from escalating even further. "Joy, you need to stop right now. This has gone way too far." But Joy brushed past her. "I'll stop when I'm ready, Whoopi. I'm tired of being managed, controlled, and told how I should act. This is live television, and live television isn't always neat. Sometimes it gets ugly. Deal with it." Valerie met Joy's stare without flinching, her voice calm but firm. "I genuinely hope you get the help you so clearly need, because this behavior isn't normal or acceptable. I'm leaving now and I won't be returning." She turned and began walking away from the table. Joy shouted after her, her voice dripping with contempt. "Good. Don't come back and take all your celebrity friends with you. This show doesn't need you or any of the other attention hungry has-beens who think they can use this platform to push their products." The cameras followed Valerie as she exited the set with her head held high, refusing to look back. Joy remained standing at center stage, breathing heavily, her eyes darting toward her stunned co-hosts. The silence that followed was overwhelming, thick enough to feel. Sarah Haynes was the first to speak, her voice barely audible. "Joy, what just happened? That was so unlike you." Joy responded with a hollow laugh and shook her head. "Unlike me? No, Sarah. This is exactly who I am. This is me when I'm not forcing myself to be pleasant for the cameras. I'm exhausted from pretending. I'm exhausted from all of it." She looked around the table, and for the first time, uncertainty flickered across her face. Whoopi tried once more to steady the situation. "Joy, let's sit down and finish the show. We can talk about this later." But Joy looked at her with something resembling pity. "Finish the show? You really think we can just move on like nothing happened and start chatting about recipes and celebrity gossip again? You think the audience will just forget what they just saw?" She gestured toward the cameras still rolling, capturing every second. "I don't know how to pretend anymore, Whoopi. I don't know how to sit here smiling and nodding while this show becomes something I don't even recognize. I don't know how to be fake and agreeable when everything about this feels wrong to me." The raw sincerity in her voice was almost more unsettling than the anger that had erupted earlier. It stripped away any sense of performance and revealed something far more exposed. Around the table, her colleagues exchanged uneasy looks, clearly unsure how to respond to this version of Joy Behar they had never witnessed before. In the control room, producers argued intensely over whether they should cut away, but the unfolding chaos was so gripping that no one could bring themselves to stop the broadcast. Joy scanned the studio audience, many of whom stared back at her in stunned disbelief. "You all came here expecting the usual light celebrity chatter and friendly morning banter," she said flatly. "Well, congratulations. Today you got something real. You got to see what happens when someone stops pretending and finally says what they actually think instead of playing along." She turned toward the panel, who were still standing awkwardly around the table. "And every one of you knows I'm right. You know this show has drifted away from what it once was. You know it's losing its identity, but you're too afraid to say it out loud because you don't want to cause waves." The accusation lingered like a dare. Sunny Hostin was the first to answer, her tone measured, her legal instincts clearly kicking in as she tried to calm the moment. "Joy, we all care about this show and want it to succeed. Maybe this is a conversation we should have when we're not live on television." Joy responded with a sharp, humorless laugh. "When we're not live? You mean when the cameras are off and we can all smile again and pretend everything's fine? When we can bury this and go back to business as usual?" "No, Sunny. If this conversation is going to happen, it's happening now, while the entire country is watching." She stepped closer to the camera, addressing viewers directly with an intensity that was both captivating and deeply unsettling. "You want the truth about what really goes on behind the scenes here. You wonder why this show feels different lately. It's because we've been told to play it safe, to avoid controversy, to be polite to every celebrity who walks through that door no matter how empty their message is." Whoopi Goldberg stepped forward, her voice steady but firm. "Joy, this is not the time or place for this discussion. We have a responsibility to our audience and to each other to handle things professionally." "Professionally?" Joy snapped, spinning around to face her, sarcasm dripping from every word. "You mean the way you professionally sat there and let that guest talk down to me? Or the way you professionally tried to shut me up when I was telling the truth? Or maybe you mean how we all professionally pretend this show is still sharp and relevant, when we know it's starting to feel like a parody of itself?" The other hosts had clustered together at one end of the table, visibly torn between staying put and stepping away. Sarah Haynes looked shaken, her hands trembling slightly, and even Sunny, usually unflappable, appeared rattled by Joy's increasingly unpredictable behavior. Joy continued pacing across the stage like a caged animal, her agitation growing with each step. You want to know what the real issue is? It's not that I was harsh with a guest. The real problem is that nobody wants honesty anymore. Everyone wants everything softened and sweetened. Well, I'm 68 years old, and I don't have time to sugarcoat reality anymore. She stopped pacing and stared directly at her colleagues. You sit there judging me for speaking my mind, but where were you when producers started booking guests nobody actually cares about? Where were you when they told us to tone down our opinions? You went along with it because it was easier than pushing back. Whoopi tried once more to reason with her longtime colleague. Joy, we can talk about all of this, but not like this, not in front of the audience. This isn't fair to them or to us. Fair. Joy's voice climbed higher, nearly breaking. You want to talk about fair? Is it fair that I gave the best years of my career to this show, only to be told I need to be nicer? Is it fair that we're expected to praise every celebrity cookbook like it's a work of art? Is it fair that we can't have real conversations anymore because someone's feelings might get hurt? By now, the audience was completely silent. Some looked genuinely frightened by what they were seeing unfold live. Others discreetly pulled out their phones, recording what was clearly becoming one of the most talked about moments in daytime television. Joy noticed the phones and pointed toward them. Go ahead, record it, post it everywhere. Let people see what happens when someone finally refuses to play the game. Let them see what honesty looks like on live television. She turned back toward the camera, her face flushed, her breathing heavy, standing in the spotlight as the weight of the moment pressed down on the entire studio. You know what? I'm finished. I'm finished with this program. I'm finished with the hollow conversations. And I'm finished pretending to be someone I'm not just to keep ratings up. The words sent a visible shock through the studio. Crew members who had been trying to stay unnoticed froze where they stood, staring in disbelief. This was no longer just an on-air breakdown. This was a resignation unfolding live in front of millions of viewers. Whoopi Goldberg rose from her chair immediately, alarm etched across her face. Joy, let's slow down for a moment. You don't really mean this. You're upset, and that's understandable. But let's not make a choice that can't be undone. But Joy was already reaching for her microphone, unclipping it with hands that trembled from a mix of anger and adrenaline. I mean every word of it, Whoopi. I've never been more serious about anything in my life. I'm exhausted from being told to smile, stay agreeable, and play along while this show becomes everything I never wanted it to be. She pulled the microphone pack from her waistband and placed it on the table with deliberate care, as if marking the end of an era. I've been working in television longer than some people here have been alive, and I've never felt more repulsed by what this industry has turned into. The fake camaraderie, the manufactured outrage, the nonstop worship of celebrities. It all makes me sick. Sarah Haynes finally spoke, her voice shaky. Joy, please don't do this. Whatever you're dealing with, we can work through it. The show needs you. Joy looked at her with something close to sympathy. The show doesn't need me, Sarah. It doesn't need any of us. I'll be replaced before my parking spot even cools off, just like every one of us will be when the time comes. That's the truth about this business that nobody wants to admit. She began collecting her personal belongings from the table, her movements calm and methodical, like someone who had already made peace with a permanent decision. I started out in this industry when women had to fight for every inch of space. When we had to work twice as hard just to be taken seriously, and now look at us. Sitting around gossiping about celebrities and pretending it's meaningful journalism. Whoopi made one last attempt, her voice soft but urgent. Joy, please. Don't let it end like this. Don't allow one terrible day to undo everything you've built here. Joy paused and looked at her, genuine sadness filling her eyes. One bad day. This isn't one bad day, Whoopi. This is years of frustration finally spilling over. This is me admitting that I don't belong here anymore. Maybe I never truly did. She picked up her purse and walked toward the edge of the stage, then stopped and turned back to face the cameras one final time. To anyone watching who thinks I've lost my mind, you're probably right. I lost my mind trying to fit into a world that doesn't make sense anymore. I lost my mind trying to stay polite when honesty was tearing me apart. I lost my mind pretending that celebrity culture isn't toxic and that morning television isn't helping to dumb everything down. The studio was so quiet that the faint hum of the cameras could be heard. Joy looked around at her former colleagues one last time. When she spoke again, her voice was calmer but resolute. I truly wish all of you the best. I really do. But I can't be part of this anymore. I can't sit at that table and pretend what we do here has real value when it so clearly doesn't. I can't keep smiling while guests come on to sell products disguised as inspiration. With that, she walked off the stage, leaving her stunned co-host staring after her. The cameras continued rolling, capturing every second of the aftermath. Whoopi eventually found her voice and turned toward the audience. "We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back," she said, though the confidence she was known for was noticeably absent. From offstage, Joy's voice could still be heard, clearly directed at the producers. "Don't you dare follow me with those cameras. I'm done being your spectacle. Find someone else to humiliate for ratings." Moments later, the show finally cut to commercial, but the damage had already been done. In less than half an hour, one of daytime television's most established figures had detonated her career in the most public way imaginable. Clips of the meltdown spread online almost instantly, going viral within hours. Back in the studio, the remaining hosts sat in stunned silence during the break, none of them fully able to process what they had just witnessed. The guest who sparked the chaos was long gone, but her presence would linger over the show for years. When the broadcast returned, Whoopi did her best to steady things and push forward, but it was obvious that something fundamental had changed. The View would go on, but it would never feel the same after the moment one of its own imploded so spectacularly on live television.